Well, as frequently when I do cooking, it's on one of my big green eggs. This one is here. It is very fresh coals that aren't hot yet. And you're thinking, why are we starting cooking now? Well, I learned this from the guy who did the barbecue Bible, and it was a great, quick recipe. I'm not even sure if I'm close to his, but the method is from him, and a lot of other people do it. It's sort of one of the new rages in cooking where you do it. And basically, you take your fruits. You see here I have some of the stuff sitting here, and you take it just as God gave it to us in the supermarket. I know these come out of the ground and up there, and you nestle it in the coals. So I will nestle that in the coals for about 5 minutes, and then I'll come back and I will turn it, and then I'll put the tomatoes in, and then after they're in for about another 5 minutes, we'll put the habaneros in, and then all those go into the blender for a really, really nice, slightly spicy salsa. All right, so we're going to add these tomatoes. These are just little ones. These are sort of an experiment. And see, we just put them right on the coals, and hopefully someday I'll have my own tomatoes to do this with. Oh, I shouldn't have left the label on that, but oh well. Guess what? The label will burn off. This is where you call me Grace. Because you know where this label would end up. Right on top of the salsa, probably. Alright, so that's done. Now look at this. See how charred that is? All this charred stuff is now going down into the meat, and that gives the salsa the nice charred flavor. So we're going to let this go for about, it says 5 minutes. I do it sometimes 5 minutes. I just want to make sure it gets nice and warmed. If I char a little bit of extra and I have to take it off, I don't worry about it. If you listen, you can hear the tomatoes starting to hiss. See, it doesn't really do that much. You'd think setting them on the hot coals would cause a problem. It doesn't seem to cause that big of a problem. So we'll be back in a few minutes when we put the secret ingredient on, the habaneros. No longer a secret. Alright, so we're back. We're going to flip the tomatoes. They're not as charred as I would like, but we will keep going because they can always get charred. See, not that charred. Remember, I just lit this fire. A little bit charred. Now, here's the secret. If you're allergic to capsaicin, or if you have a problem, you don't like spicy, I don't know what you do, maybe just use one of these. I'm going to cook 3, and after I sand, I will take the seeds out, and I will only use 2 of them in the process, as you can smell the heat from those peppers that already just went on. So I'll do 2, and if it's too hot, and I already have salsa for tonight that's already not very spicy, so this is just the spicy salsa, and so I will get these done and keep checking this. It should be a little bit soft, so I'm going to I don't want to ruin the outside of it too much, so I'm going to keep turning it to get that nice and done. You don't want to overcook the tomatoes or you get gooey, sort of like I don't want to say store-bought is bad, but you get gooey stuff. So we'll be back when it's time to flip this all over and maybe take it in. Alright, well, I did a little flip while you guys were looking, and you can see just in a short period of time, that was like literally 2 minutes, that one side is darkened, which is all we want. We want to keep turning them so they get cooked a little bit, because that will help, mitigate some of the heat, because I realize a lot of people don't like it. And look at that, that's perfect. Now we'll brush the char off, the charcoal stuff off of it when we get inside on the cutting board, and we try to do this without burning ourselves. See, that's good. See how they're smoking? For some reason that one didn't do as well. I'm going to switch hands. The fire's gotten nice and hot, which is good because cobbler and beer bread's going on it next. See, still not, I'm going to leave it on there just a second longer. But if you look, I have enough that already have enough of it on there. That's about what you want. And then you look at this, and that's a little bit soft. It doesn't have to be much, because remember, that's going to add some of the consistency, I think, I don't know if that was the original intent. That one's a little bit gooey, but it'll be all good. So we'll close this and we'll be back at the cutting board. Alright, so we're here. We have everything in. I bet you missed the sleight of hand where we got the habaneros in, but they're there too. We saved the habaneros to last because if I get the juice and the habaneros on here, everybody who doesn't like the heat will not be happy, and then I'll end up touching my face and I'll not be happy. See the consistency? This could be a little bit better cooked, but it's still going to be okay. So all we're doing now is preparing it for the food processor. If I see any places with the dust from the charcoal still on it after I've rubbed them off a little bit, then I do that. Now you don't want the food processor to have the chopper to do all the work, because then this will end up too too gooey. That's my technical term. So we're gonna get all this done, and before we go, and remember the tomatoes are really easy to go, so we are going to take a pause and put the chopping blade in here, and we'll be right back once we put the chopping blade in. Okay, so the blade was found. It was, well, right where I put it, probably. If not, I blame it was Yolanda or Emily or Uche. But basically, we're going to put these in. So keep the nice charred, because that's where a lot of the flavor is going to be. So it's just not ground up salsa stuff. And this is going to get noisy. And we're going to stop right there. See, look, about that consistency. Then we're going to come back here. Remember, we're not going to touch these end up, because I'm probably going to eat that. We're going to cut these up a little bit because we don't want the processor to have to do a lot of the work. I've already checked to make sure that there's none of the dust on there. I'm going to do this. I don't know. See, it's not still, these are a little bit, I prefer a little bit riper, because then there's not this little hard stuff in the middle. But as long as you cut them up small enough before you put them in, that's not a problem. And since it's homemade, I don't think people mind if you get a little bit of inconsistency. And then take the end out of this one. And these little ones, make sure we do not get one of our friends. These are pretty much good as they are. See, and I did this because I thought, watch out for those. So we are good. We're gonna go put these in the chopper thingy, food processor. I should, if I was smart, I would have used the same cutting board, so it would be less cleaning later, but nope. In case you're wondering, the bacon you hear is not for this. You'll find out what that's for later. Alright, Alexa, cancel. Then we're going to do the same thing we did before. Some people clean this off. I was slicing this before. I just leave it. Okay, see, get it about there. Make sure none of that stuff sticks. Now, one of the things I add, it says orange and lime are good flavors, and I never keep orange juice around. So I keep some frozen concentrate. I put that in and let it start warming up. And then again, these are my precise measurements. And then I just sort of do that. And then if it gets too spicy or if I don't like the flavor later, I just add a little bit more of that. I get that going in there so it can start melting. And now for the secret. We'll come back here. We're only going to use 2 of them. We are not going to touch our face in this process. Did you hear that? We are not going to touch our face in this process. We can answer the phone. So this is a hot one. I can just tell by the smell of it, it's hot. So I think probably 2 without the seeds is going to be just plenty. You have to remember that this cutting board has to be washed very well before the next time you use it, because this oil will stick to it. So I'm going to put these in there. Now this is how much I've learned to be careful. I put those in there and I come back to the sink. And wash my hands. So we're back. We're going to get a spoon. We'll see if we have the perfect salsa yet again. That may have been a little bit too much of the orange. That's good. I might add, I'm gonna let it sit for a little bit. I might even add that last habanero. We'll see how that does. And that basically is it. I would use maybe just 2/3 of that for what I use, because there is a little bit of orange, but I sort of like it. So experiment, love it. That's my hot salsa. If you want to do it without the heat, don't use the habaneros. Or use a half of one. There you go. Happy holy eats.